What's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video today. And today, the Washington Commanders beat the Cleveland Browns in Week 1 of the NFL preseason, 17-15, in a really close game down to the wire, where you would see a touchdown pass from Kellen Mond thrown to wide receiver Mike Harley Jr. And this was a 17-9 ball game in the fourth quarter, and Cleveland scored a touchdown, and then to tie the ball game up with a 2-point conversion was no good, and they lost it 17-15. Both projected starting quarterbacks for both teams played. Sam Howell played a little bit more than Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, he threw for like 12 yards. He was like 3 for 3 and had like 20 rushing yards and 3 carries. Not that bad from Deshaun Watson today. Was 3 for 3 and had 20 rushing yards. But did not play that much. I think he played a series or two. Maybe played one series. But Sam Howell, he played a lot. He played 2 or 3 series, and he was 9 for 12 with 77 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown. Let's go to the scoring summary, though. The Browns scored first when there would be a penalty called on Andrew Wiley. I believe that's an offensive lineman for the Commanders. And the Commanders were already backed into their own end zone. It would be ultimately turned into a safety. And with 2 minutes to go in the first quarter, that would be the first score of the ball game. A safety on the safety for the Browns. So it's 2-0. Then second quarter, 2 touchdowns for the Washington Commanders. A Sam Howell touchdown pass to Jahan Dotson, 26 yards. A 26-yard touchdown pass to Jahan Dotson. And Joey Sly makes the extra point. Then another touchdown, Jacoby Brissett, backup quarterback, with a 12-yard rushing touchdown. Michael Badgley makes the extra point, so a different kicker this time. And they could just keep switching off the kickers because in the third quarter, the Commanders add in 3 more points when Joey Sly makes a 49-yard field goal, and it's 17-2. Then Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who played really good throughout the Hall of Fame game, and he led the Browns out of all quarterbacks in passing yards today, going 9 for 10 as well. There was a touchdown pass, a 7-yard touchdown pass to David Bell, and Cade York makes the extra point, and it is 17-9. Then Kellen Mond in the fourth quarter with 1 minute and 40 seconds to go throws a 20-yard touchdown pass to Mike Harley Jr., and then Kellen Mond on a 2-point conversion throws a pass to Austin Watkins Jr. for the 2-point conversion. No good, passing complete, and it's 17-15. Let's go over the game leaders. So for the Commanders with passing yards, Sam Howell, 9 for 12, 77 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown. For the Browns, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 9 for 10, 102 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown. Rushing yards. For the Browns, Demetric Felton Jr., 7 carries, 27 rushing yards. And for the Commanders, it is Rodriguez with 5 carries and 39 rushing yards. Receiving yards. The Commanders, it is Brian Pringle with 1 reception for 32 receiving yards. And for the Browns, it is Austin Watkins Jr. with 5 receptions for 52 receiving yards. Let's go over the rest of some of the rest of the stats of this game. The quarterbacks for the Commanders, Jacoby Brissett throwing 6 for 10, 75 passing yards. He did have a rushing touchdown, but he did throw an interception and was sacked once. How about Jake Fromm? Was a good quarterback for Georgia and then got drafted to the Bills. Didn't really do much there, but he was their third-string quarterback today, and he threw 5 for 7 with 26 passing yards and threw an interception. The other quarterbacks for the Cleveland Browns, besides Deshaun Watson, the starter throwing 3 for 3 with 12 passing yards, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, probably the player of the game for the Cleveland Browns, throwing for 102 passing yards, 9 for 10, and 1 touchdown pass. Kellen Mond threw 7 for 12 with 80 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown. And Joshua Dobbs threw 8 for 16 with 77 passing yards and 1 interception. So that was the end of the day for the Browns passing. Rushing, besides Demetric Felton running for 31 yards, Deshaun Watson ran for 20, and then Elijah Moore, wide receiver, did have a 18-yard run. And that was really it. I mean, wasn't a lot of, besides the quarterbacks and Elijah Moore, there wasn't a lot of rushing. Joshua Dobbs and Kellen Mond and Deshaun Watson had a decent amount of rushing yards. Kellen Mond had 16, Dobbs had 11, and Watson had 20. Those are all quarterbacks. And then Elijah Moore had 18. Most of the rushing yards, or a good portion of it, was from other players like quarterbacks or wide receivers. Not a lot of rushing yards when it came to running backs besides Demetric Felton. Receiving for rushing for the Commanders, Chris Rodriguez Jr. with 5 carries, 39 rushing yards, and then Jacoby Brissett with 2 carries, 16 yards, and 1 touchdown. And then their starter, Brian Robinson Jr., 3 carries and 16 rushing yards. And then you also saw Jarrett Patterson with 6 carries and 16 rushing yards. And also Antonio Gibson had 2 carries and 7 rushing yards, who is their backup running back. Receiving, Jahan Dotson had 2 receptions for 30 receiving yards and a touchdown for the Commanders. And Cole Turner had 4 receptions for 31 receiving yards. Diami Brown had 1 reception for 14 receiving yards, and Mitchell Tinsley had 1 reception for 26 yards. Curtis Samuel had 1 reception for 10 yards. Terry McLaurin had 1 reception for 7 yards, and Antonio Gibson had 2 receptions for 13 yards. For the Browns, I don't think Amari Cooper didn't play in this game, but some of the big players, Austin Watkins did have 71 receiving yards. I don't think he'll be someone who maybe he makes the roster. We'll see. Miller Forstall had 4 receptions for 66 receiving yards. Zaire Mitchell-Patton had 3 receptions for 39 yards. David Bell had 3 receptions for 33 yards and 1 touchdown. Mike Harley Jr. had 1 reception for 20 yards and 1 touchdown. Cedric Tillman had 2 receptions for 7 yards. Elijah Moore, who's a starter, had 1 reception for 6 yards. Jordan Akins, who is a former teammate of Deshaun Watson, had 1 reception and 5 yards. And then the Browns starting tight end, David Njoku, only had 1 yard in this game and 1 reception. So the Browns were not playing their starters much at all. Neither Nick Chubb or Amari Cooper played in this game. David Njoku and Deshaun Watson only played 1 drive. And that was really it for the Browns starters today. The Browns fumbled once. It was Hassan Hall fumbled it, and John Ridgeway recovered it. Tackles, not a lot. The leading tackles for the Commanders was Kyle Hudson with 6, and then for the Browns, Jacob Phillips with 5. With sacks, the Browns had 2 sacks, and that was, all of them were half sacks. Maurice Hurst had a half a sack. Mike Ford had a half a sack. Jeremiah Martin had a half a sack, and same thing goes for Tommy Toggi. And then for the Commanders, they had 1 sack, and it was James Smith-Williams. Interceptions. Percy Butler for the Commanders had an interception. He returned it for 42 yards. And then how about 2 interceptions for Ronnie Hickman Jr.? So Ronnie Hickman Jr. with 2 interceptions in this game for the Cleveland Browns. So that's really it with everything for the game. The Browns used both Joey Sly and Michael Badgley. Badgley only kicked 1 extra point, and Sly kicked 1 extra point and a field goal, and he was perfect, and so was Badgley. And both are in consideration for the starting kicking job for the Washington Commanders. You guys have your thoughts on the game. That's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace out. Let me know your thoughts.